with us, Shu-Tze TAN, who is one of Malaysia's up-and-coming authors, and she's recently published one of her books. And we're going to dig into that topic in a short while. But thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving us some time today. Do tell us a little bit about yourself before we dig into the details of your book.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Shu-Tze here. Born, bred, educated, worked here, and been privileged to be in an era with the technology and being able to connect with people globally just from my home. And yes, I've been pay my due like 20 over years in the corporate scene, both consulting and corporate background, largely with conglomerates, banks, financial institution, manufacturing, and many different industry. So yes, recently I just published a book, and it is called The Human Race 4.0. And so this is a book about how do we move forward, with this smart technology, with Industry Revolution 4.0, right? And with the pandemic, it actually has speed up the change, the whole digital transformation by even like 20 to 30 over times during the last 18 months or so. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this, what the future is going to be like, and how do we get ahead, as human on top of the robots that's around us.
Okay, awesome. Now, one of the things that I'm aware of that a lot of people are concerned about, that the robots are coming, they're going to take over everything. Of course, I grew up watching Terminator 1, Terminator 2, where Skynet takes over everything, which I think is awesome for a movie plot. And we all loved Arnold Schwarzenegger's one-liners, because at that time he could only speak one-liners. I think his English wasn't good enough, but the the whole idea around machines and machines doing a lot of jobs for humans has also created a lot of tension for humans without that kind of doomsday scenario. But what is it that we're looking at in terms of the next few months, the next few years, where we see robots doing more and more for us?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We have actually entered into this industrial revolution due to the technological advancement. We have already entered into the fourth industrial revolution. That's about more than a decade ago, about 10 years ago. So what does it mean is that technology today has what I call the brain, which is called the artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence has grown to a stage where robots are continually getting informations, right, from what have been executed. They continue to receive and gather more information and continue to analyze and make better decisions, and also continue to execute decisions that we allow them to execute decisions. Now, so where are we going ahead? During this pandemic period, there has been an increase of innovation because many businesses across every industry were affected. Our life, our livelihood, the way we children go to school has been affected, right? This thing called working from home and studying from home, it was a foreign concept to many people and many countries in the past. But during this pandemic, it became like, whoa, we have to just adopt and change like literally overnight, right? So technology advancement will continue to change many aspects of our life. So we are going through a huge uncertainty because we don't know when it will land, when new normal is going to be looking like. But the good news is, if we were to look back to the thousands and hundreds of thousands of history of human being and how we always evolve, and we always, emerge, become a better version of who we are, and we will continue to do that too.
Awesome. I hope. I mean, I'm all for people doing more work for me. And if we can find robots who can do more work, that's great. I mean, we've seen it in the realms of communications. There are bots that communicate. You go to a website, you go to you deal with all kinds of things. This has become commonplace. But how intelligent is artificial intelligence right now? Is it up to standard? Are we at reading at a fifth grader level, or are we at university student level? Where are we in that thing, or is it not all bots are created equal? What's your take there?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, robots are tools and technology, right? So it really depends on which level of intelligence, because there are so many generations of artificial intelligence now. Now imagine this at the most advanced level, we call it the super intelligent artificial intelligence. And imagine this. The whole world of libraries, of books and journals and everything else. If we as humans were to read it, I think we need many lifetimes. But for robots, we are able to, feed them with all this information, and they are able to, collect all this information, read all this information in a much more faster way than us human being can, right? And be able to, synthesize the information. And when we ask them questions, definitely they are able to use that collective intelligence and give us a answer that probably we only know a certain few due to our background and what we have read, but the robots are able to produce us a better answer. So that
Mm-hmm.
actually tells us that robots can be so much more faster, to a large extent, of course, accuracy, but that also depending on accuracy of the data that we have. But one of the things that we must remember is this: robots ultimately is machinery, right? And that can never replace us as human, our intuition, our responsibility as human being. Yeah, I'll just leave it as that.
Mm-hmm. Lovely, lovely. And thank you. I noticed a whole bunch of our usual guests are joining. Hi, Marisa from Jakarta. Terima kasih kerana sudi datang sini. Okay, so on that, I want this idea of creative intelligence.
Mhm.
We've got artificial intelligence and we've got creative intelligence. Now, Dion, you've got some video footage, and I hope you play it of the chess game. Is it possible, or do we put it in a certain order? Let's have a look at this chess game. Can you tell us what's going on here, and then explain to us the difference between the levels of intelligence here?
So I don't know how many people have saw this video before. The first time this experiment was carried out was a few decades ago. I can't remember, like 3, 4 decades ago, as in 20, 30 years ago, by IBM. And this experiment was also carried out quite recently, where we had already, instead of a human with human playing against robot, which in the end, in the experiment, the robot won. And there it was
Mm-hmm.
another experiment where robots playing against robots, and they continue to learn each other's strategy, and it actually goes to a higher and higher level of thinking that we have never thought before. So that is called machine learning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you think this machine learning is creative enough to be more creative uh, uh, than the kind of grandmaster chess players? I mean, of course, this, I mean, for me, is in a sense a, a technological game, and a very you're literally inside what is it, 64 squares in a chess box,
Mhm.
so you're there, you're
Mhm.
inside this box, but is it creative enough? And the other part is what Madeline has asked us: what are your thoughts on future scenarios for humanity and technology when we
Mhm.
look at humanizing this technology? Is that the gap right now?
Yes, there is a huge discussion in this topic, and by the way, that is a fantastic question. There has been a lot of questions around, like, where is the role of human, make robots become more, still preserving the humanity, right? So there has been institution, university who set up even research center in this. It's called the human centric, right? And there are a lot of design now. They incorporate that. So what it means is that instead of just looking into robots, how they can solve a higher level problems for us, we are also looking at what is the impact, what is the relationship, the experience is going to bring to human, to the user also. So this is where
Mhm.
I would like to emphasize again. At the end of the day, no matter how smart a robot is, at the end of the day, when we have tools and technology, today we
Mhm.
are already in an era where almost any one of us can create anything with artificial intelligence, which means we have a lot of power as individuals, right? So, but what it also means is, what do we do with the tools? What do we do with the technology is entirely up to us. So this is where we have to talk, we have to have conversations about what is our role, what is our responsibility, what do we want to use it
Mhm.
for, and there's a constant conversations between, is my right, I can use it for to gain my right, but we also need to be aware of what is the public order, public peace that we want to be
Mhm.
creating. All right, so that makes you,
Yeah.
a Hitler or a Muhammad Gandhi, for example.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So he said, are you a big fan of Asimov? You know, this famous writer who talked about the rules of robots, and rule number one, that they can't do harm to humanity. But we see now the rise of technology in the military sphere. I know this is kind of like, we're talking about industry, but it's the military complex. How much of the fear of robots has been generated by first, of course, Terminator movies. Of course, that's my cultural reference. But now you see this robotics and this AI technology being used in that kind of fields of conflict. Is that something that you've encountered in terms of resistance?
Yes, I've been very active in Clubhouse and having a lot of discussion around this. You know how technology is changing our world, our life, in the medical field, in the of course in helping community, because we now have so much of a global gaps in terms of equality. And even and also at mental health, human mental health, right? Despite the advancement of technology, our mental health globally as human has continued to deteriorate. So something is not right. We are not doing something right, right? Even despite the technology that we have. So, and this is where again coming back to, I mean, it's similar to the old school. Is gun good or not? Is the law of gun good or not? That it has been a huge debates in US and in many parts of the world. Should we allow everyday consumer like you and me to have license to hold guns? So it still come back to this whole questions of like how much of the innovations that we allow. Should we have creativity in the field of, for example, the genome part, creating human by using my cell and then create another humans and make them a soldier or something like that, on top of
Mm-hmm.
your
Gemini
virus.
Man. Have you watched that video? Did you watch that movie? It was the number one trending movie in Malaysia for the last week or so. Will Smith in Gemini Man. It's exactly that.
Oh, I haven't,
He
yeah.
was he was a clone soldier. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so yes, there's a lot of conversations around this area, because when we talk about what can we potentially create today, it's amazing compared to like the last industrial revolution and before that, right? And today,
Hmm.
the innovation and technology advancement is in every aspect of our life and every industry, and anyone without a PhD or a scientist, we can create something. What I mean? As long as we can collaborate, we know how to collaborate with technologies, we are able to create anything. So still
Yeah.
come back to the questions: what is the ultimate objective? What is the ultimate
Hmm.
aim? What is the ultimate overall goods, and how do we get there?
Exactly, exactly. And
Mhm.
Shamita has asked a very good question here as well. She's brought it back to where your book has kind of driven this discussion further.
Mhm.
IR 4.0, AI, and its implications for the economy and psychology. I think everyone is. I think anything that you do nowadays, you can just add mental health. Because I think people have just woken up and realized, oh, is this good for me, and will I survive this from a mental health perspective?
Correct.
How is AI and this going to impact mental health positively? and how is it also going to impact our economy positively, especially as we kind of want to move out of this COVID-19 pandemic economic reality. Let's just call it that. I don't want to use the word, although I have to say it, recession or these kind of words. What do you see moving forward?
Okay. So of course, what we are aiming to go forward now is recovery. But we need to bear in mind that recovery, there's going to be in 3 stages. The first one is, of course, overcoming the virus, right? And so that the infection rate moving forward, it will not escalate to that category 3, 4, 5, which means which we need to be hospitalized and have all the machine to support our lung or whatever not. So we want to get away from that and want to reduce the hospitalization rate. That's number one. That's recovery. Now, after that, we will have that phase of economy recovery before the new structure of social economy, the way we work, the way we live, going to start normalize, right? So this whole phase is going to take probably about 5-6 years, right? And when we talk about the economy recovery, right, there are some, of course, like starting, then after they reverse back. Like for example, China, the economy was going on, but then now they have like inter areas lockdown again because the spread of a Delta virus and things like that. So during this economy state of recovery, there are a lot of discussion and negotiations that's going on, not just internally in the company, in the countries, but also geopolitical. Okay, so the geopolitical is going to affect the decisions of businesses, going to affect the decisions of industry. Industry are also trying to find their footing. Now, industry, of course, they started to come back much more faster than certain industry, right? Some industry are still waiting to start. Yeah, they are still in a space where people are not traveling yet. Events, face-to-face events are not happening yet. Hotels are not moving anywhere yet, except becoming a COVID hospital and things like that. So during that period, there will be a lot of shift and uncertainty, right? There will be a lot of new tax, new economy model, new business model, new revenue models. That's going to happen, all right? And competition is no longer just the industry that we are from, but also from different industry can also encroach into the area that we are, supplying, right? So a lot of this uncertainty is still happening. Yeah. All right.
For me, I see this uncertainty. I know there's a lot to discuss today, and we're going to get through a lot of questions. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. We're going to try and get through them all. Now, there's 3 questions. I kind of want to blend these the last 3 questions together. We see decreased use of manpower for companies who use robots. They say, okay, I use a robot, I use 5 staff instead of 50. This is one concept. Now we want humans to remain human, those who remain in the workforce. But now, what happens to those people who are taken out of the workforce? And I've got 2 questions in that context. What should companies who are manufacturing do who are going to go down the path of increased industrialization? And what should those people do who are taken out of that? Are they permanently taken out, or are there pathways back into the system? What do you think? Start with the pathways back into the system, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Yep. So yes, there will be already started. Yeah, more company and manufacturing are adopting the robots, right? According to what they can afford, And yes, there will be a lot of jobs gonna be replaced, right? But at the same time, there are also many different type of jobs that we have not even defined. It's gonna continue to come out from it. And also the structure of job. Is it gonna be a full-time employment, a time-based employment, a part-time or a hybrid? So these things will continue to evolve. And if we look back to the past, now this whole revolution of industry, of technology, is not just happening today, right? It has happened in the past, like 400 years ago, where this whole technological advancement has already started. So, and through the different phases, we have seen huge farming and things like that. been replaced, and people began to look into other areas of to survive. And ultimately, it still come back to these whole questions of how do we survive, how do we put food on the table, right? How do we look for food on the table? So that factor has not changed. That ultimate aim has not changed. It's just the method of getting there has changed.
Okay, because for me, one of the things now, of course, a lot of people are afraid of jobs and job security. For me, I see this as an opportunity to change what you're doing, and okay, you know this is coming.
Yes.
Build into your career path how you will become technologically coherent and you can bring this symbiosis to a company as an employee. As an entrepreneurs need to start to think, hey, I need to look at how I'm going to get my hands on this technology. Now, we Alan, thank you, Alan, for that comment. I believe one misconception of IR 4.0 is the sole focus on the reduction of manpower. That is very short. Yeah, exactly. You're shaking your head. For me. I'm talking about it in terms of that fear. But what is the and now I want to get to that the lovely rainbow side of the discussion.
Yes.
I a few days ago I was sitting with my son who is obviously been doing his schoolwork at home and all this kind of stuff, and then he showed me some of the and he's only just turned 11. He's showed me some of the programming that he's done, and I was like, oh wow, 11-year-old kid doing programming, and I was like, we would never do that as an 11-year-old kid in growing up a few years ago. I won't tell you how many years ago. Like what Alan is saying, what are the opportunities and how do we get the education component right so that we actually get to that positive, promised land?
Yes. And moving forward, even if we, in the earlier conversation, we talk about human-centric design in the technology, right? So what are the skill set? Now, what has happened is that, unfortunately, our education system has gone to a level where it is so scale-based, a specific area of scales-based, but forgetting that, creating that whole ecosystem mindset to be able to understand and see how what I do fit into that entire ecosystem and what are the challenges that the ecosystem is facing, right? So moving forward, what do we need to have, to prepare ourselves? So skills is something that will come and go, and we can learn it in time of needs, right? But the whole mindset of looking at things, that is something that's going to continue to be a long term, and the longer that we are in it, the better it is. So what are the top future proof mindset that we should have? First one is, of course, we need to have a global view, to understand how everything links and works together. And if you look at people like, say, Jack Ma, he doesn't even do a single coding, all right? But he created one of the world's largest internet company, a tech company, right? So what did he have? He has that global view, right? He's able to see what needs to be connected, and he influence people, to be able to, form what he needs to put together. And he doesn't need to be the person who be able to be skillful in that particular technical area. Okay, so which comes to the second point that we need to have is to have people skills, because collaboration across border is already happening today, right? And I only have been in Clubhouse like for about 3-4 months, but I've seen collaborations of businesses, new business idea that has already became fruitations today, just through Clubhouse, through people who have conversations, have focused conversations on the solutions they are working and looking at together. All right, so we are talking about collaborations is already happening. So people skills, being able to connect, being able to understand each other, being able to relate each other, not just at the mental part, the intelligent area, but also at the heart level, that is absolutely important. Then, of course, we have about like agility, there's a critical thinking, problem solving, and I say those things is just getting down to work, right? The more we get our hands dirty, the better we are in this. Now, there are a lot of really great questions. I would love to answer them. I hope this can be captured in the LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's there. It's all there. So I know some of these questions you're going to have to go back and answer because there's a whole bunch of stuff. And Alan, I really appreciate all your comments and ideas, and I agree with you for a lot of that stuff. My mom in our family, she's the boss, but of everybody, and nobody messes with her. But the wonderful thing about my mom is she's like this amazing digital adapter. She's like the fastest. She got me, oh, you need to sign up to LinkedIn, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I agree, there's nothing stopping older people from, learning the digital ways that now digital natives are very much born into. They don't know a world that doesn't involve, iPads and iPhones and the other, all that other technology.
Mm-hmm.
But when we see things shift in the economy, do you think that governments of the world, and I'm not just singling out any one company, any one country here, are are governments able to catch up with the private sector, or do we need more collaborative efforts that we can have these discussions to say, look, this is people focused, this is actually supply chain focused, this is what end consumers want. The tool that we're going to use is these things. Nobody asks nowadays about how steamrollers and bobcats work. That's just a tool that you use on the road. Should some of this technology become so commonplace that it's not an issue? What do you think?
Yeah, there are a lot of governments has already put their thoughts and also policies and their taxations, and whatever that they do to help increase the whole digital leadership mindset, innovation and adoption, right? The same thing in Malaysia and the same thing in many countries that I've read. There are a lot of plans and charter and effort already in place, and it is not just recent. Even way back to even like 10, 20 years ago, that's already been started, right? So yes, government has always been in the forefront to look forward. And what government usually do is they have to plan not just the next 5 years. In corporations, we probably look into short term. If you are CEO for 5 years, you look at the next 5 years, where am I going to get the money in, right? But the governments will have to plan like 10, 20, even all the way to 50 over years. Right, so some of them they have these plans in place, and if we are diligent enough to actually look for it, we can actually look at it, right? And they had a very intensive study and plans already.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, part of that future thinking, that designing the desired future, that futurists like yourself also talk about. I think it's so important because there's a lot of steps to get to where we need to go, and a lot of education that's required. Now, I want to come back to your book because I promised to talk a bit more about, and I wanted to know more about your book. And I know that one lucky viewer today gets a copy of your book, and I hope it's signed because I want mine to be signed by you as well. Now, tell us a bit more about your book and why is it so important?
Okay. So I started writing this book in 2019. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put a book together is because I do a lot of work relating to this whole digital transformation. And there has always been a lot of conversations like how do we move forward? A lot of conversations and questions are like what our audience has asked today, right? As I was like screening through, I was like, oh my God. So these are the questions that's still coming up, right? So, and even during the last 18 months, a lot of my engagement with my clients are asking the same question also. Like, what is digital transformation? What is IR 4.0? How is it impacting life, livelihood, industry, and even to specific industry, to the industry? And from a leadership point of view, as organization, how do we lead our people forward? And at individual level, how do we prepare ourselves to stay relevant in this new world, right? So that's the reason why in the book, instead of saying the new normal, I call it the new world order. Yeah, because the whole order of this social norm is changing, right? This whole order of the world economy, geopolitical agreement, and of course our business model, revenue models, everything are changing, are evolving, right? So if you were to ask me what is the right model, in fact, a lot of us, we won't know yet. It is still under testing. Which is the right technology, we won't know, because technology is really a factor of adoptions, right? The more people use it, the more people finds that it's helping them, to solve their problems, or help them make money, whatever it is, right? Then that technology will continue to stay. But the ones adoptions that's little, then eventually will die off, right? Yeah. So and I also want to bring up to one of the points someone was saying, what about those who are older? What do we do? Interestingly, I am in the midst of also learning about the human neuron, right? How our brain are functioning and works, and through the development stage and things like that. And I came across one article that says, in fact, the most productive age of human, if you're doing the right thing, right? It's actually in the 60 and 70 years old, right? And reason why being, now productive doesn't mean that you do a lot of work in 1 hour, okay? Productive means the output, the impact that you're creating, right? And why 60 to 70? Because by then we would have accumulated many experiences, we've gone through many failures, right? And we learned, right? We learned a lot of things. We had the network, we had the connection, we know who to get to, to put things together and things like that. So 60 to 70, if you're at that age, hey, come on, this is your years, all right? And I have met great people in their 50, late 50, 60. There's a guy, happens to be a friend that we met in Clubhouse in Israel. He's from Israel. He used to be a creative director, and his passion is in painting. And he has a creative advertising company for many years, and he sold off 10 years ago. And he actually, through his observation and design, he actually came up with a implant, a nipple implant for people who gone through operation and lost their nipples, right? And beautiful design, is agile and things like that. Come on, from someone who is non-healthcare, non-plastic surgeon background, came on something like that because of his creativity and all those things. So a lot of things can happen. And he was in his mid 50s when he actually created that, right? So I've seen people who are in their 60, 70, they are the movers and shakers of the industry or government, and put things together, and even during seen somebody who is in the 60s or so, right? But very quickly he was able to mobilize help and coordinate global, collaboration, and send more oxygen into India, right? So
Nice.
So our creativity, our productivity is different at different age, compared to a younger younger age, let them do more work, physical work, right?
Exactly right. And those young people who are watching, especially in my team, you know what I mean. Got to get it done. But all jokes aside, I think what we need to do is and there's one last question I want to do, because we've gone over a little bit over time, but I want to ask you around this idea. What can science and technology do to help reduce the poverty rate? What are your thoughts there?
Can help who? Sorry.
What can science and technology do in the future, or even now for that matter, to prevent or decrease the poverty rate?
Yeah. Okay. The poverty rate, actually, we were winning the war. As in, there was the poverty rate was before the pandemic has starting to come down. And of course, one of the countries that you can actually read, like what did they do, is China, all right? And how they have reduced the poverty over the last 40 years. It is actually a long-term type of effort, right? But of course, during this pandemic, it kind of like swing all the way back in, widen the whole gap again. But now, how can technology help? There are a lot of examples. Even people at the like, for example, blockchain, how blockchain was used to distribute this sun harvest energy in a refugee camp in Thailand, for example. And there are because of the mobile devices, right? They are the super poor. They are able to transact, right? No longer with the physical bank. Businesses, micro businesses, are created based on mobile and connections. right? And with mobiles also, pricings of even like raw materials or pricings of stuff that is being produced in the farm, without going through the middleman, it can actually get a better pricings to the end factory who needs it, right? Without going through the middleman, then all your price hike and by the yeah. So yeah, a lot of example. Definitely, if this is your area of passion or whoever in the audience, right? Do follow World Economic Forum. There has continuous videos on success story, what has been created. There are people on the ground. I met people who are on the ground, who are actually looking for, find creative way of even internet. Without internet, so what do? They actually link up to satellites, right? And created internet enabled for people who don't have the internet line, cable line, and things like that. So a lot of things are happening. But we must remember this. These are like man shifts, to help immediately. But for a long-term sustainability, it is a whole global collaborations, and of course country to country collaborations, right? And it will definitely involve things like company what do you call it, governmental policies, right? Trade agreements, and even the whole philosophy of how country is being run and things like that, right? So the collaboration between like China with say Africa countries in Africa, right? There are a lot of great things going on, great infrastructure was built and things like that. But you also have people who look at it and say, yeah, China come and encroach them, and make them indebted for towards China forever. So you can actually look at something and see from the eyes of positivity and creating probability from that, possibility from that, and learn from that. I have friends from Africa who says that, wow, through that collaboration, we learn so much. It increases my family life, livelihood and lifestyle, right? But some who actually said that, China came to us, all my business was wiped out, it's unfair to us, and now I'm at my stage because China came to us, So it's really how we leverage on the resources out there. Either we allow those technology resources opportunity to kill us, or we actually ride on it and learn new ways to ride on it. Yeah. So same with technology. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, I like it. And one last thing, and very quickly, Shamita has also asked another one around labor intensive towards capital intensive. And you were talking about China and Africa and kind of this kind of gap, the developed world versus the developing world versus the very deeply impoverished countries who are going to be faced with this capital gap. They're already faced with it. Now they're going to be faced with a technology gap. How do you see us leveling somewhat the playing field?
Yeah.
And is there a collaborative model that developing countries, in a sense, can just collaborate with each other that doesn't necessarily need a big Oxford University or Harvard University technology guy coming in to solve the problem? What are your thoughts there?
Yes, I always say the great case study is really go deep into China and South Africa. How do they create that collaboration? And it's a relationship that's been around for, I think, about 2 decades now. Right now, in that relationship, we cannot be looking at the Africa need China. In fact, China needs Africa too. Why? They need the resources. All right. So at the end of the day, wherever we are now, we must remember this: whichever community that we choose to help. First thing is, instead of saying that they don't have the tools we have, they don't have the internet and robot that we have, so therefore we can't help them. No. First thing, whoever that we want to help, we look at into their where they are, what are the resources that they have, all right? Material resources and also their spirit resources. Some of them has spirit to thrive no matter what situations they are in, right? Their spirit to turn around, to grow, to survive is so strong, and that is how is the resources by itself. All right, and of course whatever natural resources that they have. So we tap into that area and then look at, okay, what is the simplest, most lowest cost, cheapest cost, way to help them move their resources around to areas that need that, pay the highest price or whatever. You know what I mean?
Nice. Well, Shu-Tze TAN, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all your insights. I look forward to finding out who gets the free copy of the book. I guess you're gonna have to put it in the comments below. Someone who's made a comment. I look for getting my hands on a copy as well. There we go. Actually, if you don't get a free copy today, where do you get it from? Is it from Amazon or where is it?
It's available in Amazon Books. So if you go to Amazon Books, you can get a paperback or a Kindle version. Yeah, if you are in Malaysia, yeah, you can actually. I will put my link in. Yeah, the link is in my Instagram. Sorry, in my LinkedIn. Yeah, the link to get
Okay.
a copy of the book is on LinkedIn. Yeah,
Put
so
it
Malaysia,
I think you can.
the hardcover.
Yeah. Put the link in the comments below so that people can find their way to get this book. I think it's going to be very important reading for business leaders and young leaders also who are looking to find their way through the minefield that they may see ahead of them, so that they can get to the positive realities that technology can bring to us.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, thank you for joining us, and for everyone who's joined us as well today, thank you for joining our Working Lunch with Nordin.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and thank you Nordin too. I will definitely take my time to read through all the comments and all the questions. Those are valuable. Thank you so much.